Welcome to Seaway Whisky Wire. Tonight on the bar, we've got the Glen Breton 15-year-old Canadian Single Malt Whiskey. Stay tuned. Well, hey guys, thanks for coming back after the intro there. I'm Tyler, and tonight on the bar, we got the Glen Breton 15-year-old Canadian Single Malt Whiskey coming in from the Glenora Distillery in Nova Scotia, Canada. This distillery has only been around since 1990, but it's got a great history to it, and the name behind the whiskey has got a wicked history behind it too, the Battle of the Glen, which we'll get into all that in a minute here. But before we do, being a Canadian distillery, being close to Canada Day here, I'm poured myself a dram of it, and if you got yourself some Canadian single malt, some Canadian rye, Canadian blended whiskey, and you want to pour yourself a dram, drink along with me, please do so. I encourage it. Makes life a heck of a lot better for you there on the other end, and I enjoy drinking with you guys. So pour yourself a dram and we'll get into it. So let's get into the history of the Glenora Distillery. So the Glenora Distillery was established in 1990 by Bruce Jardine, and the goal was to create a single malt whiskey in the Scottish tradition, but being produced in Canada. And the distillery is situated on the picturesque landscape of Cape Breton Island, in which Jardine believed it was the ideal place for whiskey production. The Glenora Distillery imported its copper pots and stills from Scotland and used local spring water to craft their whiskey. The result was the Glen Breton Rare, and North America's first single malt whiskey, which debuted back in 2000. Glen Breton Rare received positive reviews and international recognition, helping it put Canadian single malt whiskey on the map, and its success showcased the potential for high-quality whiskey production outside of Scotland. And that's mainly what these guys are focused on. You can get the Glen Breton Rare 10-year-old in the LCBO right now. I think it's around $90. But for something like this, it's 15-year-old, you actually have to go to the Glenora Distillery in Cape Breton and get it yourself, and that's where my buddy Lucas got it way back when. So let's get into the name Battle of the Glen, and where did that come from? Well, the Battle of the Glen refers to a legal dispute that began in the 2000s when the Scotch Whisky Association, or the SWA, which is a trade organization that represents the interest of Scotch whiskey producers, challenged the Glenora Distillery over the use of the name Glen Breton. The SWA argued that the term Glen was inherently Scottish and could be misleading to consumers, and having them confused that the Glen Breton whiskey was actually Scotch, which I think is a little bit absurd. But anyways, not to give it away, the case was brought before the Canadian Trademark Opposition Board in 2007, and the board initially ruled in favor of the SWA, stating that the use of the word Glen could indeed be misleading. However, good on them, the Glenora Distillery challenged and appealed the decision. And in 2019, a federal court of Canada overturned the previous ruling, allowing Glenora to continue using the name Glen Breton. The courts acknowledged that while the name Glen is commonly associated with Scotland, it did not exclusively belong to Scottish products, and the Canadian consumers were unlikely to be misled. The victory was significant for the Glenora Distillery and the broader Canadian whiskey market, setting a precedence for the use of traditional whiskey terminology outside of Scotland, and it affirmed Glen Breton's identity and established its place in the global whiskey market. And guys, I'm really glad that they did this and appealed the case and won, and really stuck it back to these guys trying to claim the name Glen as a Scottish terminology and really kind of take that away from these producers. And good on Glenora to go full tilt in there. This bottling right here is actually from 2009, right after the ruling was overturned, and good on them to go out and really take advantage of it there. They've got newspaper clippings all over this. They've kind of stated that it is the Battle of the Glen, hard won and richly deserved, right on the packaging, which is pretty cool. There's also this nice little booklet here, and I'll put some pictures up of some of the cartoons and characters that they got in here, but they got a book that outlines everything, and that came with the bottle from the Glenora Distillery that my buddy Lucas picked up when he was there back in 2009. What can I tell you about this whiskey here from the Glenora Distillery, this Glen Breton 15-year-old? Well, I can tell you what I know about it. Number one, this is, again, bottled in 2009, and this is a 15-year-old Canadian single malt. Comes in at 43% ABV, non-chill filtered, and no color added. At least I couldn't find anything that said otherwise. 43%, there might be some filtration in there, but I do see it as a very raw spirit. You can really tell when you get the bottle up there in the light, you can really see some particles and stuff floating through there, which leads me to believe that it's not chill filtered. As far as the maturation process, all they do is state that it's oak cask, so I'm assuming it's ex-bourbon based on some of the profile that I've got out of this particular expression. So we'll get into the presentation piece and all that kind of stuff. Number one, presentation of this, I'm going to give it a complete pass. Very Canadian. You know, it's got the maple leaf on top. It's red. It's got all these newspaper clippings. It's got a prominent picture of the distillery up front, and a nice little story on the back that just kind of tells you to enjoy this hard-fought victory and letting you know that it was bottled by Glenora Distilleries, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Bottle-wise, too, very cool bottle, very simple bottle, but a nice old-style apothecary bottle. I really, really, really like it. I've already poured myself a dram of this and let it air out here because, 15 years old, I wanted to make sure I gave it some time to open up. But we'll get into the color here and have a look at what's in the bottle. So I'll come in close here so you guys can have a look here. So it's a real golden straw color there. And I mean, 15 years and no color added. And again, I'm saying no filtration. Yeah, very much imparted that. And this is why I think and believe that it is ex-bourbon casks. Yeah. All right. So let's get into the nose on the Glen Breton 15-year-old Canadian Single Malt whiskey. Let's get into it. So it's very light nose, 43%. I think almost, I wouldn't say hurts it a little bit, but it makes it, it's not very, it's very smooth nose, very easy nose. I'm getting some definite vibes of honey on there, really prominent honey. Some maple syrup on there as well. And maybe that this might just be the Canadian in me there in the Canadian whiskey, but definitely get some maple syrup. Some cooked apples, like cooked red apples or apples for a pie. And a little bit of vanilla in there. Getting a little bit of lemon peel or some citrus in there as well. And maybe a little bit of pie crust or a graham cracker. So very, very dessert-like, I would definitely say on the nose of the Glen Breton 15-year-old. But let's get into the palate and see what we can unlock with this. So, cheers to your health, and let's dive into it. So much like the nose, I'm getting that honey. I'm getting this maple candy kind of vibe to it. Not overly sweet, but I am getting that maple. I'm getting some vanilla on there too. Maybe some like apple crumble, with the granola and stuff on top there. Cinnamon, some cloves as well. Definitely some cinnamon and clove vibes in there. Some orange zest, citrus, and on the back end there, it's like a fresh shot of mint, very minty, and a little bit of lemon on the back palate there for sure. Yeah, very nice for a Canadian single malt indeed. So with that, we'll get on to the finish of the Glen Breton 15-year-old. I'm going to go in for one more sip here just to see if I can unlock anything else. Okay. So finish-wise, it's a short finish. Smooth, little bit of sweetness on it there, but not like that sugary sweet. Just it's really those maple candy, that honey, some vanilla in there, as well as the apples. Really prominently show you that flavor profile, and that's again why I truly believe it's ex-bourbon barrels that are used in the maturation process. Very easy sipper, being at 43% ABV, very very approachable. You don't need to add water to it. You don't need to really do anything with it. It's ready to go out of the bottle, and this being bottled back in 2009. It's still very much, I would say, a very medium body to it. Yeah. So, my thoughts and opinions on this as far as value, are you going to be able to go out and get yourself a bottle from 2009? I would say probably not. So I'm not going to use the value proposition for this person per se. I'm going to change that to legacy. This is a great Canadian distillery in Glenora, making great Canadian spirits, and I really do want to try some more expressions from the Glenora Distillery, whether that be a trip down to Nova Scotia. So if Mrs. Seaway's listening or watching this, down east, let's maybe try and do that. Or you can always get the Glen Breton Rare 10-year-old at the LCBO. Sells for about $85. A little tough to find here and there, but definitely worth going out and trying to seek out from a Canadian single malt perspective that's readily available. And I would just encourage you guys to try and find yourself some other Canadian distilleries, some other Canadian single malts, and really try and explore that. Whether that's from Sons of Vancouver, Two Brewers, Macaloni's, any of these guys that are doing these Canadian great expressions and great products coming out of Canada, which we have lots of. I'd encourage you guys to go out, seek them out, and try them out, because nothing more Canadian than having a nice big dram of Canadian whiskey, and especially if it's from a legit distillery and it's a legit product. So I'll leave you with that. If you like what we're doing here at Seaway Whisky Wire, you guys know that drill. Like and subscribe down below, and don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Seaway Whisky Wire. So if you guys hung around this long, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys for sticking around this long. I enjoy doing this and enjoy bringing this to you. So go seek yourself out some great Canadian whiskey from a great Canadian distillery. So cheers to your health. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.